Hey guys, tonight we're entering a world more terrifying than your group chat after a high school reunion. 1950s America, where every woman's clock was ticking louder than the refrigerator. That's right, tonight you're going to experience the soul-numbing, hairspray-choked world of mid-century courtship and marital deadlines, a place where being 26 and unmarried was considered a tragic medical condition, and every casserole was a cry for help. So before you nestle in, take a second to like the video and subscribe, but only if you actually enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment below with your current relationship status and the weirdest thing your parents ever told you about settling down. I read every one of them, usually while eating ice cream straight from the tub and pretending it's for research. Now dim those lights, switch on a fan for that soothing background hum, and get as comfortable as you can in your modern, judgment-free home. Because in the 1950s, comfort was a luxury reserved for sofas no one was allowed to sit on, and marriages that came with warranties. But let's pause for a second. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to be told your entire worth expired at the same time as your driver's license? Would you survive the endless parade of suitors named Bob? Could you endure a lifetime supply of tuna casseroles and helpful advice from Aunt Doris? Would you cave under the pressure of a family calendar that's just your ovulation schedule in Sharpie? And most importantly, how many times can you fake laugh at a man's joke about Tupperware before your soul leaves your body? Congratulations, you've just woken up in 1953. You're a 23-year-old woman living with your parents, and the local postman just asked if you found a nice man yet for the 4th time this week. Good luck. You've barely blown out the candles on your 23rd birthday cake, and already every calendar in the house feels like a doomsday clock. Your mother's friends are eyeing you the way people look at milk that's just past the sell-by date. Apparently you have 2 years left before your value drops faster than the stock market in 1929. No pressure. Let's talk about time, 1950s style. In your house, every wall has a calendar. Every calendar has a red circle around your next birthday, and every birthday is another lap closer to the edge of the social cliff. You can practically feel the sands running through the hourglass whenever you walk into the kitchen. The family clock ticks just a little louder these days, as if it's personally invested in your love life. At 23, you're officially on the clock. At 24, people start sending you articles about famous late marriages. By 25, you're teetering on the brink of spinsterhood, a fate described in whispers as if you might catch it from sitting on the wrong sofa cushion. Breakfast is less about scrambled eggs and more about scrambled expectations. Your father reads the newspaper, but every so often you catch him glancing at the wedding section with a heavy sigh, as though he's searching for your name and quietly mourning its absence. The only thing thicker than the toast is the tension. Your mother, meanwhile, has begun to call you by your full name whenever visitors are present, as if extra syllables might add back lost years. She has 2 hobbies now, knitting and sighing. Outside, the neighbourhood is a minefield of unsolicited advice. Mrs. Jenkins, from across the street, corners you at the mailbox to offer tips she read in Good Housekeeping about getting yourself noticed. Step 1. Always carry a pie. Step 2. Always look surprised by your own pie. Step 3. Don't ask questions, just keep baking. You nod politely, cradling a stack of mail addressed to Miss. It's the official title for women in your age bracket, just above spinster and one step away from mysterious recluse with cats. At the grocery store, it's more of the same. Even the cashier gives you that look, the one that says, "Are you sure you don't need double coupons for ice cream tonight?" He scans your single-serving dinners with the delicate pity of a man ringing up a tragedy in 3 courses. Meanwhile, your younger cousin is already planning her second baby shower, and you haven't even gotten to first base in the League of Matrimony. Let's pause and talk about the list. Every woman has one, whether she admits it or not. The list of men you could have married by now: Mike from high school, Dan from church, maybe even that dentist who talked too much about gingivitis. The list haunts you. It's the ghost at every dinner party rattling its chains. Your mother refers to it as missed opportunities. Your best friend calls it bullet dodged. You just call it Tuesday, and the symptoms of old maid syndrome only get more obvious as the deadline approaches. You start knitting, even though you hate knitting. You develop strong opinions about casserole. You suddenly have more Tupperware than sense, and you know the difference between off-white and eggshell and can argue about it for hours. Your wardrobe is quietly invaded by sensible shoes. You find yourself saying things like, "I just haven't met the right person," but deep down you know you're just tired of explaining yourself to strangers at the dry cleaner. But here's the thing. The closer you get to 25, the more you realise the diagnosis is less about you and more about everyone else's panic. It's society's way of making sure the assembly line keeps running, the casseroles keep baking, and the guest list at church never gets too short. Because heaven forbid a woman be single, content, and slightly mysterious. It's a fear that runs deeper than the roots on your latest home perm. So, as the calendar pages turn and your relatives quietly ramp up their matchmaking efforts, you start to see the absurdity in it all. You're not milk, you're not a lost cause, and you're certainly not catching anything besides maybe a cold from all the stress. But for now, you'll play along, circle dates on your own calendar, and smile politely every time someone asks, "When's your turn?" Because deep down you know the clock only has as much power as you give it, and you're just getting started. Your bedroom hasn't changed since you were 8, but you have. Still, here you are, stuck with floral wallpaper, a twin bed, and parents who treat every phone call as a potential engagement announcement. Privacy, only if you hide in the linen closet. Let's set the scene. It's 1954, and you're 23, but your room is still rocking pink carnations and a hand-painted princess sign above the door. Your trophies from elementary school, most improved reader, runner-up in the pie-eating contest, sit proudly on the shelf, silently judging your progress. Your mother has kept your stuffed animals on the pillow for company. The twin bed is so narrow, you have to choose between sleeping on your side or rolling onto the floor. You're a grown woman, but your room has the ambience of a dollhouse trapped in time. It's not just the decor that's stuck in a time warp. The real challenge is living under the watchful eyes of two parents who believe your every movement could lead to either matrimony or public scandal. Every phone call, whether from a coworker, the hair salon, or the library, sparks hope, suspicion, and at least one parental ear pressed to the door. "Who was that, dear?" your mother asks, armed with a notebook and a hopeful tone that could melt steel. "Did he sound nice? Was it that Bob boy from the office? God help you if it was a woman calling." Now you're the subject of a new round of whispered speculation and hurried prayers. You thought you'd get more privacy as an adult, but the only real alone time you get is when you volunteer to put away the linens. The linen closet becomes your sanctuary, a padded cell where you can whisper secrets to your diary and read magazines your mother calls saucy. Sometimes you daydream about building a blanket fort behind the towels and starting a new life in Narnia, where nobody asks if you're seeing anyone special. Mealtimes are less about nourishment and more about gentle interrogation. Your father reads the newspaper with one eye and studies you with the other, as if waiting for you to announce a surprise engagement between bites of meatloaf. Your mother offers career advice that's mostly thinly disguised hints. You know, Mary down the street met her husband while volunteering at the church bake sale, while making it clear that getting your own apartment is only slightly less shameful than moving to Paris to become a can-can dancer. The family's love is real, but so is the pressure. Even the family dog looks like he's wondering when you're moving out. Sleepovers are a distant memory after all. What would the neighbours say? If you do have friends over, your parents introduce themselves with the seriousness of federal agents and offer snacks with the air of a parole board granting a last meal. Every potential boyfriend is met with a handshake that lasts just a beat too long and a smile that says, "We have a shovel in a backyard." Your mother manages to sneak in questions about his intentions before you've even finished pouring the lemonade. Laundry is a battleground of privacy. You try to sneak your delicates in at 11 p.m, but somehow your mother always intercepts them, folded, starched, and arranged by colour the next morning. "I just wanted to help, dear," she says, with a smile that's equal parts pride and gentle threat. Let's not forget the house rules. Home by 10, no locked doors. We trust you, but you can never be too careful. Every time you step out, your mother reminds you to wear a nice sweater in case you run into eligible bachelors at the pharmacy. Heaven forbid you linger in the car too long after a date. Your father is suddenly on the porch, watering the flowers with the hose no matter the season. The absurdity is endless. You can legally drive a car, sign a lease, or vote for president, but you still have to leave a note if you go to the movies. Your independence exists entirely in the theoretical. Freedom is just around the corner, specifically at the corner of I do and here's your own mortgage. So you bide your time, trapped in limbo between childhood and adulthood, sharing space with your parents and your old science fair ribbon. In 1950s America, the only way out is down the aisle. Until then, you're living in suspended animation, waiting, hoping, and quietly resenting the smell of mothballs in the closet that is, for now, your only private kingdom. Welcome to Saturday night, where your social calendar is filled with events designed to find you a man, whether you want one or not. Tonight's options include a church picnic, a charity dance, and an event called Spinster's Surprise. Spoiler, the surprise is disappointment. You put on your best dress, one that's supposed to say marriage material but mostly screams itchy polyester, and brace yourself for an evening of relentless matchmaking. The 1950s didn't have Tinder, but what it did have was far scarier. The combined forces of church committees, social clubs, and mothers with too much time on their hands. Every event is another round in the tournament, where the only prize is a husband, and the consolation prize is a new set of doilies. You step into the church basement, instantly greeted by a sea of folding chairs and the suspicious scent of Jell-O salad. The air hums with a kind of desperate optimism usually reserved for self-help seminars and multi-level marketing schemes. At the entrance, Mrs. Williams checks your name off the list, giving you a look that says, "Don't embarrass us this time. You promise yourself you'll try." The games begin with the Bachelor Auction, a yearly event where eligible men are paraded around like prize livestock, each one vying for attention with varying levels of enthusiasm and hair tonic. It's part county fair, part medieval market, and all deeply uncomfortable. Tonight's bachelors include 3 men named Ed, 1 aspiring accountant, and a man whose main qualification is owns a car that sometimes starts. You bid with Monopoly money, but the stakes feel real. As the bidding heats up, you can't help but wonder if it's better to win or to lose. Next up is the charity dance, where the DJ's idea of romance is a crackly Bing Crosby record and the scent of gymnasium floor wax. The first slow dance is always the most awkward, as couples pair off like nervous teenagers at summer camp. You try to avoid eye contact with Mr. Grayson, the Sunday school teacher who's been between jobs since 1947, but he finds you anyway. You spend 3 excruciating minutes discussing his stamp collection and contemplating whether spontaneous combustion would get you out of the next song. As the night wears on, the conversation shifts to the main event, Spinster's Surprise. You don't know what's in the mystery box, but you can safely bet it's not a fiancé. Last year's surprise was a set of embroidered hand towels and a prayer card. The year before, it was a motivational talk from the local pharmacist about keeping your options open. This year, the box is larger, sparking rumours it might be an actual man or at least a blender. You place your bets with your friends, knowing full well you'll lose either way. The real competition, of course, is not for bachelors but for approval. Every sideways glance from the older women in the congregation is a scorecard. Did you make enough small talk? Did you smile appropriately? Did you eat at least 1 serving of casserole? And did you act surprised when someone mentioned your single status? It's like a game show, except the host is God and the grand prize is not having to move back in with your parents. You sneak away for a breath of fresh air only to be cornered by Mrs. Peterson, who introduces you to her nephew from out of town. He's shy, possibly allergic to sunlight, and definitely more interested in the deviled eggs than in conversation. You make polite noises and wonder if running away to join the circus would be more or less socially acceptable than another round of musical chairs. And through it all, there's the gentle, unspoken panic, the knowledge that you're here not just for fun, but because this is what you're supposed to want. Marriage isn't just a goal, it's the finish line, and every event is a hurdle. But as the evening ends and you gather your parting gift, a coupon for 10% off at the local dry cleaner, you realise the true surprise is just how exhausting this all is. You walk home under the flicker of streetlights, your hair smelling faintly of punch and desperation, and you promise yourself that next Saturday you'll fake the flu. But you know, deep down, that you'll be back. Because in the 1950s, finding a husband wasn't just a game, it was the only game in town. If you thought college was for expanding your mind, think again. It's a 4-year sprint to get a diamond on your finger before finals week. Your diploma is just a backup plan in case the proposal doesn't pan out. Step onto any 1950s campus, and you'll find that higher education comes with a syllabus of unwritten rules. Your major may be English literature, but your minor is husband hunting, and the final exam is getting pinned before cap and gown season. Freshman orientation is less about finding the library, and more about identifying which fraternity boys have reliable cars, promising career prospects, and a mother who bakes tolerable cookies. The library's quiet floor is actually the designated spot for shy, slow-burn flirtations. 2 students pretending to study while sneaking glances over textbooks. The only thing more intimidating than your midterm is accidentally locking eyes with a senior on the prowl for his future missus. Every social club and sorority has an unspoken mission. Secure engagements by spring, or prepare to be pitied at the next alumni picnic. Meetings are divided into 2 segments, charity planning and who's still single roll call. If you don't have a steady by homecoming, your sisters start leaving subtle hints in your mailbox. Newspaper clippings about last year's marriage statistics, or a coupon for a beauty parlor just in case you want a new look for Sadie Hawkins. The pressure is so thick you could spread it on Wonder Bread and call it lunch. Dances are less about dancing and more about networking. Every sock hop is a live-action resume review, with each jitterbug a chance to demonstrate you're fun, wholesome, and possess the ideal wrist for holding a casserole dish. The men aren't immune either. Every date is a mental calculation. Is she wife material, or is she just here for the free root beer float? Relationships move at breakneck speed. First date, second date, meet my parents, and suddenly you're talking colour schemes for the wedding you haven't actually agreed to. It isn't all white picket fences and daydreams. The dorm rumour mill runs on caffeine and panic. If a girl gets pinned by the middle of sophomore year, it's front page news. If she isn't by the start of senior year, people talk. What's wrong with her? Is she too picky? Too focused on academics? Did she say something scandalous in philosophy class? Gossip swirls faster than the punch bowl at a spring formal, and every engagement announcement is greeted with equal parts glee and envy. Professors might teach you Chaucer and calculus, but it's the unofficial instructors, house mothers, club presidents, and the rare cool aunt who married late at 26 who provide the real curriculum. They offer tips on everything from keeping lipstick fresh through a 3-hour lecture to snagging a proposal before the class gift is even commissioned. Meanwhile, you perfect the art of writing love notes in the margins of your notebook and memorising the lyrics to Going to the Chapel just in case you need to perform it at a friend's impromptu engagement party. And yet, beneath the surface-level chaos, there's a quiet anxiety. What if you actually want to graduate first? What if you like the idea of living on your own for a while, or scandal of scandals, using your degree in the real world? These are dangerous thoughts best kept to yourself, lest your roommates start practicing her supportive but deeply concerned look. Independence is nice, but so is not being the only single girl in the yearbook photo. By spring, campus is in full bloom, wisteria on the arches, pastel dresses on the lawn, and a flurry of diamond rings flashing in the sunlight. There are whispers about one girl who graduated single and lived to tell the tale, but no one quite believes it. As for you, you slip your diploma into one hand, your hopes into the other, and wonder which will matter more at the next reunion. Because here in the collegiate courtship gauntlet, the only thing riskier than failing your classes is failing to land a ring by spring. And if all else fails, at least you'll always have that backup plan hanging, ironically, right next to your wedding dress just in case. You thought it was just harmless plastic storage, but no, Tupperware parties are where your friends get engaged and you get anxiety. By the end of the night, everyone's got a fiancé and you've got a set of burp seal containers. The 1950s American living room is ground zero for the world's most dangerous multi-level marketing scheme, marriage by Tupperware. Your invitation arrives with a pastel flourish and a promise of snacks, but the real menu is social pressure served in canapes and casual interrogations. You show up, clutching your potluck casserole and wearing your best. I'm only here for the jello salad smile. The room smells like lemon pledge and anticipation. As soon as you cross the threshold, you're handed a name tag, a bingo card, and a hostess exclusive catalogue, each one a subtle reminder that you are both the guest and the merchandise. Mrs. Randall, your hostess, is dressed like a Stepford sales general, her lipstick as immovable as her resolve. She welcomes you with a practiced smile, glancing briefly at your ring finger before steering you toward the display table. Rows of Tupperware sparkle beneath the kitchen's fluorescent light, promising an airtight future if you play your cards right. You sit among friends and frenemies, all making small talk about upcoming weddings, summer trips, and who got the best deal on a blender. The main event begins, a product demonstration complete with a burping bowl, a dramatic story about freshness, and the unspoken truth that apparently a full set of Tupperware is the final hurdle before engagement. The hostess winks as she locks a lid, promising, "With Tupperware, nothing goes stale." You force a laugh, privately calculating the odds you'll still be single by the time your leftovers need storage. Suddenly the conversation turns. Your recently engaged friend, Janet, is accidentally flashing her new ring every time she reaches for a deviled egg. Each engagement story is a mini-lecture in success. "Well, Bob proposed right after I got my Tupperware set," she says, as if sealing in freshness also seals in commitment. Another friend, Sue, demonstrates her bridal registry starter kit, showing off enough plastic to preserve an entire Thanksgiving dinner and her future happiness. And the games. Oh, the games. There's guess the number of peas in the container, match the lid to the bowl, and the ever-popular who will get engaged next. You win second prize in the lid matching contest and receive a pale blue butter dish. The real prize, though, is a front row seat to your own existential crisis. While your friends compare diamond carrots, you're comparing the merits of modular storage. As the night wears on, the sales pitch shifts to the subject of husbands. Mrs. Randall is an expert in the art of double meaning. A well-stocked kitchen is the foundation of a happy home, she coos, passing around order forms. You nod, half listening, wondering if anyone else has noticed the uncanny correlation between buying stackable containers and scoring a marriage proposal. Janet sidles over, ring glinting, and whispers that Bob just loves how organised I am now. You resist the urge to point out that Bob also loves bowling, but nobody's throwing him a party. The party ends with a flurry of sign-ups, check writing and polite hugs. Your friends have RSVP'd for new lives, bridal showers, new homes, and yes, even more Tupperware. You head home with your consolation prize, a pastel set of containers and the sinking suspicion that you're the only one who came for the snacks and left with storage solutions and mild panic. Back in your kitchen, you stack your new Tupperware, marvelling at how neatly they fit together, unlike your love life. Outside, the crickets are chirping, your leftovers are safe, and your prospects are still pending. In 1950s America, love might be elusive, but at least your potato salad will stay fresh until the next party. If only there was a container for keeping your dignity just as airtight. Your hair is a helmet of ambition, lacquered with hope and aquanet. You spend hours at the salon because everyone knows a good perm increases your odds of matrimony by 12%. Side effects may include scalp burns and existential dread. Let's set the scene. It's Thursday afternoon, and you've made your pilgrimage to Dottie's beauty parlour, home of eternal optimism, faint chemical fumes, and gossip that could power a small town. The shop bell rings as you enter, and every eye in the place lands on your head, silently critiquing its volume and bounce. The air is thick with the aroma of hot coffee, ammonia, and hope. You slide into a cracked vinyl chair, clutching a dog-eared photo torn from a magazine, a Hollywood starlet with the kind of hair that says I make my own gravy from scratch, and I always get invited to the best weddings. Dottie, queen of the curlers and possessor of a permanent cheerful squint, runs a comb through your hair with a frown. "Looks like you need the full treatment, honey," she says, reaching for her jar of mystery solution. "We'll have you catching bouquets in no time." You try to relax as she winds your hair into rollers tight enough to restrict blood flow to your brain, reassuring you that a little sting means it's working. The tingling sensation is somewhere between spa facial and mild electrical fire. All around you, the symphony of salon life plays on, dryers whooshing, clippers buzzing, women discussing everything from meatloaf to marriage proposals. Conversations drift from Doris's new engagement to whether Aquanet is truly flammable. It is, with pit stops at the rumour that Judy's cousin got a date just by switching to midnight mocha hair colour. Apparently in the 1950s, your odds of landing a man are directly proportional to the number of bobby pins holding you together. After an hour and a half of sitting, stewing, and smelling faintly of wet sheep, Dottie unfurls your curls with a flourish. You study your reflection, a shiny, gravity-defying cloud that could deflect low-flying birds. The look is less movie starlet and more regional pageant runner-up, but Dottie assures you it's the style in all the big cities. She gives you a fresh blast of Aquanet so potent that you briefly consider using your new hairdo as a riot shield. But beauty has a price. Beneath every gleaming curl lurks the secret cost. The sting of scalp burns, the ache of hours spent under a hairdryer hot enough to bake a meatloaf, and the subtle humiliation of knowing you're fighting an unwinnable war against humidity. You begin to understand why so many women in town have that slightly dazed look in their eyes. It's equal parts optimism and mild chemical poisoning. It doesn't stop at the salon. At home, you become a hair care vigilante. Sleeping on rollers is an act of willpower reserved for the truly desperate or the truly committed to catching a husband by autumn. You wrap your head in a scarf, hoping to preserve the structural integrity of your new look, and pray you don't wake up with a crease running right through your ambitions. Your mother wanders in, offers you a helpful tip about lemon juice and vinegar rinses, and reminisces about her own glory days when the only styling tool was a hot poker and raw determination. Out in public, you parade your new perma wave with the caution of someone transporting a priceless artifact. At church, you sit upright in the pew, barely breathing, lest a rogue draft ruffle your halo of curls. On dates, you spend more time checking your reflection in the butter knives than talking to your companion. The unspoken contest is always in the air. Who has the biggest, shiniest, most romantic hair? The answer, inevitably, is the one whose scalp is tingling the most. But the truth is, underneath all the lacquer, the burns, and the carefully sculpted swirls, you start to question whether the real peril is missing out on love or just missing out on being comfortable in your own hair for once. For now, you keep the helmet on and soldier through, trusting that somewhere out there is a man who'll see past the Aquanet and into the heart of a woman who just wants to stop sleeping with her head at a 45-degree angle. And if nothing else, at least your hair's got your back. It's basically bulletproof, which honestly might come in handy at the next Tupperware party. Every day is a new episode of Are You Sure About That Dress? Your mother has advice on everything: lipstick shade, posture, and the proper technique for pretending to enjoy limp green beans at dinner. Her love is unconditional. Her approval is not. You wake up to the familiar sound of your mother humming in the kitchen, preparing breakfast as if it's her Olympic event. Before you've even managed your first cup of coffee, she's already scrutinizing your outfit with the intensity of a Parisian couturier. "Is that what you're wearing today?" she asks. The question less about curiosity and more about existential concern. It's as if every skirt hem is a referendum on family honour. You try to remind her that it's laundry day. She tries to remind you that no daughter of mine is leaving the house in wrinkled linen. In this house, wrinkle-free is a personality trait. Breakfast is its own battleground. The toast is never quite as golden as when she was your age, and apparently your posture needs daily correction. She slides a book onto your head. "Just to practice, dear," and watches you walk to the refrigerator with the pride of a lioness grooming her cub for the hunt. Shoulders back, chin up, and smile. You never know who's watching. It might be the milkman. He's single, you know. You suppress an eye roll, remembering last week when she made you wave at the postman twice. Her advice extends well beyond wardrobe and walking. She's a one-woman encyclopedia of life hacks. How to powder your nose for maximum marital appeal, the most flattering way to sit at a church picnic, and the correct method for sending thank you notes to people you barely remember. Handwritten, with a personal touch. Typed notes are for business, or people with cold hearts. You nod, clutching the fountain pen she slipped into your purse just in case. Dinner is a nightly performance, with your mother as director and food critic. If your lipstick is the wrong shade, she stages a covert intervention before your father comes home, producing a tissue and a replacement tube from her bottomless handbag. You're not sure if she has a secret cosmetics closet, or just has cosmetics ESP, but either way, resistance is futile. During meals, she demonstrates the proper way to spear a green bean, delicate but firm, like you're coaxing it to behave. You chew, smile, and pretend not to notice her eyebrow arching whenever you pause for a sip of water. Then there are the life talks, scheduled with the regularity of weather reports. Have you considered a new hairstyle? A perm is very in right now, and you don't want to fall behind the other girls. Did you see how well-mannered Shirley was at the party last night? You could learn from her. Her mother says she never slouches. It's not jealousy, it's competitive parenting, and your mother is playing to win. Of course, none of this is truly about green beans, lipstick, or hemlines. Deep down, your mother is fighting a silent battle against the invisible deadline that haunts every woman over 25. Her advice, her corrections, her tireless efforts, they're all in service of preparing you for that magical day when you'll finally become someone else's problem, also known as married. She's determined you'll have the perfect life, even if she has to micromanage you into it. But there are moments, usually after dinner when the dish is drying and the house is quiet, when her tone softens. She brushes a stray hair from your forehead, remembers a story from her own youth, and you see the fear hiding beneath her certainty. The fear that you'll struggle, that you'll be judged, that you'll wind up lonely in a world that isn't kind to independent women. Her advice is her armour, and she's hoping you'll wear it well. So you listen, you nod, and you try to take her wisdom with a grain of salt, and maybe an antacid for the green beans, because in the end, her love is the thing that lasts longest, even if it's disguised as relentless advice and the world's largest purse full of emergency lipstick. You're working the switchboard, not because you want a career, but because you need a socially acceptable reason to leave the house. Secretarial school is just a waiting room for matrimony. Your real boss. Society's expectations. The typewriter clicks echo through your dreams now. In the 1950s, career girl doesn't mean breaking glass ceilings. It means you're passing the time until someone hands you a diamond and your resignation form in the same week. You're not at the office for ambition. You're there to avoid the third degree from your mother, your aunt, and your neighbour, who keeps asking, "So, any nice young men in your typing class?" Secretarial school is a finishing school with filing cabinets, and you're its most reluctant debutante. Your day begins with starch. Starched blouses, starched collars, and the kind of starched etiquette that makes you say yes ma'am to women 2 years older than you. You're surrounded by other girls in nearly identical pencil skirts, each with a matching look of hope, dread, or quiet resignation. You learn the art of perfect posture in a rolling chair, and the difference between professional charm and trying too hard. Instructors measure your shorthand speed the way scientists measure radioactive decay, with anxious precision and a hint of fear. The lessons are practical, but the subtext is crystal clear. You'll want to keep your desk tidy, Mrs. Edwards instructs, in case a young man from the executive floor walks by. Remember, always wear a smile, even when you're transferring someone to the complaints department. You take notes, not for the job, but for the auditions. Every phone call, every memo, every mister. Thompson will see you now as another round in the beauty pageant nobody tells you you've entered. Even the coffee break is a test. Can you pour with grace, offer cream and sugar, and never spill a drop, even when your future hangs in the balance? Behind the humming switchboard, you listen to a symphony of voices, none of them your own. Bosses bark orders, co-workers whisper about last weekend's church mixer, and the office manager is always reminding you to keep an eye out for eligible bachelors. You file and collate and staple, and with every crisp click of the stapler, you wonder if this is the sound of independence or just the world's most elaborate holding pattern. At lunch, the other girls compare notes. Some are engaged already and spend their free time planning weddings in the margins of their stenography notebooks. Others are anxiously awaiting a sign, which, in the secretarial world, usually means a department transfer to somewhere with more men. You munch your sandwich, nodding along, and practice looking delighted by tales of surprise proposals that always seem to involve a ring hidden in a filing cabinet. The oddest part? You're good at this. You can take dictation at lightning speed, decode the most cryptic handwriting, and operate the mimeograph without incident, mostly. Every time you efficiently organize someone else's chaos, you wonder if maybe you could do more. But then you catch a glimpse of the help-wanted ads, nurses, teachers, secretaries, and realize the path is less a road and more a carousel. You just keep going in circles until someone invites you off. Home in the evenings, you peel off your pantyhose and stare at your half-finished congratulations on your engagement cross-stitch project. Your mother asks if you talk to any nice men at work, as if the switchboard is some sort of romantic portal, and not a tangled web of wires and endless, faceless voices. Still, there's a small spark inside you, a half-baked hope that maybe, just maybe, you could stay at this desk a little longer. That you could make something for yourself that isn't waiting for someone else to claim you. But for now, you file your dreams under pending, answer the next call and remember to smile. Because in the world of secretarial school, matrimony might be the finish line, but for a moment you're still running your own race. Even if society insists on holding the stopwatch, you've finally got a boyfriend, and now you must navigate the ceremonial exchange of pins, class rings, and whispered I love yous. At stake, social survival, or a swift return to the singles table at family functions. In the 1950s, going steady isn't just a relationship status, it's a high-stakes game show where the grand prize is security, and the consolation prize is a long walk home after the sock hop. Suddenly, every interaction is charged with ritual significance. Your friends want the details. Did he give you his PIN? Was there a speech? Your parents want assurance. He's a nice boy, right? And you, well, you just want to get through one date without feeling like the entire neighborhood is tuning in from behind the drapes. The pinning is a rite as solemn as a coronation. It happens at the end of a dance in the passenger seat of a car that smells like French fries and nervous sweat. He leans in, fumbles through his pockets, and presents you with a school pin or a class ring. It doesn't matter that the pin is already slightly bent or the ring leaves a green streak on your finger. What matters is that he's offering you exclusive rights to his Letterman jacket and, more importantly, to a seat at the inn table at lunch. As soon as you accept, the news spreads with the efficiency of cold germs in kindergarten. By Monday, your relationship is public property. Your name and his appear together in notes passed across algebra class, scribbled inside heart-shaped doodles. Girls you barely know nod in approval. Boys look vaguely disappointed, but mostly relieved they can cross you off the list of potential Sadie Hawkins invites. But the new status comes with new pressure. Suddenly you're expected to act as a unit. You walk through the halls attached at the elbow, your newly acquired ring swinging from a chain around your neck. Lunches become joint appearances. There's even a polite, unspoken competition among the girls. Whose boyfriend's pin is the biggest? Whose ring the shiniest? Whose I love you sounded the most like a promise and least like a dare? The world outside school doesn't let you off the hook either. Family gatherings are now obstacle courses of interrogation. Aunt Doris corners you by the punch bowl. So, when do we get to meet this young man? Your mother stages a dinner just for the two of you, and watches for any sign that he might be future son-in-law material, such as an ability to hold a fork correctly or make polite conversation about jello salads. Meanwhile, the anxiety is real. One wrong move, forgetting a Friday night call, turning down a date, or sitting with the wrong group at the movies, and the entire arrangement can unravel faster than a cheap poodle skirt. The pressure to be the perfect steady is relentless. Not too clingy, not too distant, always supportive, never jealous, and definitely never seen with a boy from a rival school. And then there's the talk, whispered warnings from friends who've been there. Don't let him think he's got you wrapped around his finger, but also don't play too hard to get. You try to absorb the advice, but it's like reading the instruction manual for a malfunctioning washing machine. Confusing, slightly terrifying, and guaranteed to end with you questioning your entire approach. Deep down, beneath the layers of tradition and aquanet, you're petrified. What if he changes his mind? What if you say the wrong thing? What if you're left holding nothing but a ring and a reputation that suddenly seems fragile? But for now, you smile, adjust the chain around your neck and play your part in the ongoing social pageant. Because in the 1950s, going steady isn't just about romance, it's about survival, status, and the hope that this time you'll make it to prom with your dignity, your boyfriend, and maybe, just maybe, your heart intact. Church is less about spiritual fulfillment and more about enduring the parade of married couples and their eerily quiet, suspiciously well-behaved children. Every prayer request is for young ladies still seeking the right man, which everyone knows is code for you. You iron your best dress, dab on the most demure shade of lipstick, and practice your pleasant but not too joyful smile in the mirror. Anything to survive another Sunday in the pews. As you slide into your usual spot, you're flanked on one side by the Stevensons, married 27 years, never miss a service, and apparently raise children who can sit perfectly still for an hour, and on the other by Mrs. McCafferty, who has made it her mission to pray you into a double wedding, even if it kills her, or you. The sermon is supposed to be about grace, but the subtext is unmistakable. There's a special plan for every soul, and some of you are running late. You feel the weight of eyes, and you know it's not the Holy Spirit, it's a battalion of church ladies doing the math on your age and your marital prospects. When Pastor Davis announces, "Let's take a moment to pray for all the young people searching for the right path," his glance lingers for a beat too long in your direction. You wonder if he's visualizing your wedding reception in the fellowship hall, or just worried you'll age out of the congregation entirely. Afterward, the fellowship hour is a gauntlet of polite interrogation. You navigate a buffet table groaning with casseroles, jello salads, and at least one mystery loaf. Each bite is punctuated by someone asking about your week, your work, and your friend from choir practice. Mrs. Jensen, armed with a lemon bar and a knowing wink, sidles up and stage whispers, "You know, my nephew is just back from college. Very steady job. Good teeth." You pretend to be distracted by the coffee urn, but the questions just keep coming. Met anyone nice lately? Isn't it about time you brought someone to the picnic? Do you need a ride home? My son has a car. Children, miniature reminders of everyone else's domestic success, circle your knees, clutching colouring pages of Noah's Ark and sneaking looks at you as if you might be contagious. Parents corral them into orderly lines and exchange tales of potty training, first steps, and the latest honour roll certificate. You nod along, adding baby's first Christmas to your growing list of small talk survival topics, though the closest you've come is babysitting your cousin's goldfish. The choir sings a special number, Bind Us Together, and you swear the altos are harmonizing just a little too pointedly in your direction. When the congregation stands for closing hymn, you notice the couple in the pew ahead squeeze hands. On your other side, Mrs. McCafferty has already updated her prayer chain notebook with "Keep Ray in our thoughts, God's timing." You make a mental note to start a prayer request for those unable to mind their own business. But the grand finale comes with the church bulletin. There, between the bake sale announcement and the upcoming marriage seminar, is your name, thinly disguised. A special blessing for those still searching for their life's companion. The phrase "still searching" lands like a polite slap with a velvet glove. You want to stand up and announce, "I'm not lost, I'm just not married," but you're not sure the sanctuary's ready for that sort of confession. As you collect your coat and shake off another round of sympathetic hugs, you wonder if next week you should bring a fictional fiancé or just swap pews entirely. Either way, you've made it through another Sunday, untouched, unmarried, and, if you're honest, more spiritually exasperated than fulfilled. Because in the 1950s, church isn't just a house of worship. It's a weekly status update, a matchmaking headquarters, and a reminder that in the eyes of your community, being single is both a prayer request and, apparently, a group project. You just turned 25. The invitations to bridal showers have stopped. Now your mailbox is full of pamphlets about cat ownership and pamphlets for solo cruises. Even the family dog is starting to look at you with pity. The candles on your birthday cake have barely finished smouldering, and already the world seems to have moved you into a new category. One shelf up from eligible, and one rung below lost cause. Your mother tries not to say the word spinster, but you see her circling it in her mind like a cat sniffing at a closed door. The last time you mentioned a male co-worker in passing, she brightened so fast she nearly sprained an eyebrow. When you clarified that he was married, twice, in fact, her face fell into its new default setting, gentle concern with a side of panic. It isn't just the family, though. The whole neighbourhood has gotten the memo. Mrs. Peterson, who previously had you pegged for catch of the season, now stops midwave and offers coupons for the local animal shelter. The pharmacist hands you your cold medicine with a flyer for yoga for singles every Thursday, tucked discreetly under the bottle. You're not sure whether to thank him or just start practicing downward dog on the pharmacy floor. Mail has taken on new existential meaning. Where once there was save the dates and bridal party checklists, now you find invitations for self-discovery retreats and solo travellers' adventure weekends. No ring required. You catch yourself wondering if they send these out automatically, or if there's a nationwide network of mothers calling in referrals. Yes, she's lovely, but she just turned 25. Send the pamphlets. Suddenly, every family gathering becomes an episode of Where Did We Go Wrong? Your younger cousin, fresh off her honeymoon, flashes her ring while dispensing marriage advice like Pez candies. Your uncle jokes about how when he was your age, he already had a mortgage, 2 kids, and a back injury. The family dog now greets you with a look that's one part sympathy, one part, should I start looking for a new provider? In town, the shifts are subtle but unmistakable. At the grocery store, checkout ladies ask if you're shopping for just one. At church, prayer requests for those seeking guidance become ever more pointed. And Mrs. Jensen tries to introduce you to her nephew with the urgency of someone brokering a peace treaty. The library clerk handing you a mystery novel gently suggests something from the romance section, just for a change of pace. Even the local bakery starts including an extra cupcake in your order for later. You know what they mean. You eat it anyway. You try to laugh it off. Maybe you buy a new dress, or you join the aforementioned yoga class just to see what all the fuss is about. But the whispers persist. Such a shame, you overhear. She's so smart, too. It's as if passing the magical age of 25 has rendered you invisible, and yet somehow more noticeable than ever. A walking cautionary tale in sensible shoes. Of course, the absurdity is that not much has actually changed. You're the same person you were last week, just with slightly less patience for small talk and slightly more interest in learning Italian or maybe macrame. But the world around you seems intent on casting you in a new role, one that comes with more pamphlets than suitors. But here's the secret they don't tell you in all those "why is she still single?" editorials. Aging out isn't a curse, it's an unexpected freedom. You're suddenly allowed to skip bridal showers, spend your evenings as you please, and ignore all advice that begins with, "When I was your age, you learned to savour quiet mornings, to take yourself to the movies, to spoil your own dinner with dessert first, and maybe, just maybe, the dog is only looking at you with pity because you're the only one who still sneaks him table scraps under the radar." In a world obsessed with the marriage finish line, sometimes the greatest scandal is simply being content where you are, cats, cruises, and all. If the way to a man's heart is through his stomach, your life has become an endless bake-off. Tuna casserole, jello salad, mystery meatloaf, you've made them all, and every bite is a test you're not sure you want to pass. The kitchen in your house is less a place of culinary creativity and more an arena for competitive matchmaking. Every evening, the clatter of Pyrex is the starting bell for another round of casserole diplomacy. Your mother presides over it all like a 4-star general, surveying the fridge for strategic reserves of mayonnaise and shredded cheese. She offers pointers, some helpful, most passive-aggressive. "Remember, dear, a pinch of paprika covers a multitude of sins. Just don't let it taste too creative. You know the stakes." In 1950s America, the perfect casserole is a marriage proposal in a 9x13 dish. Your cookbook is a battlefield manual. Cream of mushroom soup, the secret weapon. Crushed potato chips, the great equalizer. It doesn't matter if you actually enjoy eating tuna suspended in mayonnaise gel. What matters is that it slides cleanly out of the pan and makes a boy look at you like you might just keep his socks matched for life. Each week brings a new culinary challenge. The Sunday potluck. Bring your best and pray nobody recognises last week's leftovers. The ladies' luncheon, where your dish is tasted, critiqued and judged on texture, flavour and potential as an engagement tool. The accidental drop-off to the bachelor down the street. "Oh, I just happened to have too much lasagna. Please take some." There's no such thing as a coincidence when you're armed with hot dish and hope. Of course, not all casseroles are created equal. Some are edible triumphs. Others are the stuff of local legend. Your infamous mystery loaf, a combination of ground beef, cornflakes, and whatever else needed using up, lives in family memory. Uncle Harold still refers to it as that night, shaking his head over his mashed potatoes. There are times when you look at your creations and think, if this is what it takes to get married, maybe the single life isn't so bad after all. Your friends are in on the act too. At every bridal shower, the recipe book for the happy couple gets passed around, filled with the collective wisdom of women who have, apparently, never met a vegetable they couldn't subdue with cream sauce. You collect these recipes like lucky charms: Mabel's cheesy chicken surprise, Nancy's noodle ring, Doris's aspic of indeterminate origin. Each dish has its own lore. That's the casserole that landed Marge a dentist. Or, this one convinced Bob to finally pop the question. You wonder if you're looking for love or just desperately trying to avoid becoming the cautionary tale at the next potluck. Your mother says it's tradition, but it feels more like a culinary arms race. Every time you try to add a new twist, paprika, a dash of hot sauce, maybe even a sprinkle of fresh herbs, someone pulls you aside and warns you against alienating the menfolk. Apparently, innovation is for bachelors and future spinsters. At some point, you begin to realise the absurdity of it all. The endless cycle of baking, testing and smiling while people critique your crust is not so much a path to love as it is a form of communal therapy. You bond with other women over failed soufflés, collapsed jello, and the universal fear of underseasoned gravy. You start swapping stories and slowly swapping expectations. Because while the casserole might be a ticket to someone's heart, it's also proof that you can feed yourself and maybe even enjoy it. The secret ingredient, it turns out, is a healthy sense of humour, if you can laugh at your culinary misfires and the bizarre courtship rituals that come with them. You might just survive the gauntlet with your dignity and your taste buds intact. And who knows? Maybe one day you'll meet someone who loves you for your tuna casserole or at least pretends well enough to eat the leftovers. Either way, you win. You're not just looking for deals on dresses, you're on the lookout for eligible bachelors in the kitchen appliance aisle. After all, nothing says marriage material like a man who knows his way around a toaster. The fluorescent lights of Jenkins' department store flicker overhead as you push your cart through the maze of endless displays. On the surface, you're in search of a sensible cardigan or a half-off Pyrex set. But beneath the well-practiced smile and casual window shopping, you're scanning the crowd with the intensity of a military reconnaissance officer. Who's here today? The bachelors, that's who. The department store in 1950s America is less a retail outlet and more a modern-day watering hole, where lonely hearts gather under the guise of hunting for a waffle iron. The ritual goes like this. You drift slowly through women's wear, pausing at dresses you can't quite afford, then wander accidentally into men's shoes. You linger near the cologne counter, inhaling the scent of old spice and possibility. By the time you've reached housewares, you're in full reconnaissance mode. Here, in the aisle of coffee percolators and gleaming blenders, eligible men can be spotted in their natural habitat, looking vaguely confused, clutching shopping lists, and hoping to appear competent in front of any nearby women. You make eye contact with a man who's squinting at a set of steak knives as if they might bite him first. Is he here to buy a present for his mother? Or is this the rare, elusive single man who bakes? You casually offer advice about non-stick pans, your voice pitched just loud enough to register as both helpful and available. He smiles back, but then you see the wedding band. False alarm. Another one lost to the wilds of domesticity. In linens, you strike up conversation with a man who's inspecting pillowcases. You discuss thread count, durability, and how a good set of sheets is the foundation for a happy home. He laughs, admits he can't tell percale from polyester, and then mentions his fiancée's favourite colour. You feign interest and retreat to small appliances, the department store's answer to the singles bar. There's a subtle choreography here, a dance of hopeful glances and polite introductions, choreographed by fate and the store's weekend sale. Your mother would say it's all about being in the right place at the right time. What she doesn't mention is how much time you'll spend pretending to care about the latest innovations in sandwich grills, just for a chance to lock eyes with someone's eligible brother. Meanwhile, the staff has seen it all before. The sales lady at the vacuum cleaner display offers a conspiratorial wink. We get lots of single gentlemen in on Saturdays. They always ask for help with irons. She means well, but her idea of matchmaking is steering you toward an accountant who needs advice on dust bags. You nod, thank her, and make a note to avoid the vacuum section unless you're desperate. Your friends share stories. Jane met her husband in sporting goods. He needed help choosing a baseball glove, and I've never played a day in my life, while Ruth swears by the frozen foods aisle. If he buys peas and not TV dinners, he's a keeper. You wonder if you're just unlucky, or if you've been shopping in the wrong section this whole time. Maybe true love is hiding in luggage, or, heaven forbid, hardware. At the checkout, your basket contains a single set of dish towels, a packet of cupcake liners, and a faint glimmer of hope. The cashier rings you up with a sympathetic smile. She's been through this herself. You leave with your purchases and the quiet realization that maybe, just maybe, you're more interested in a man who knows his way around the world than one who simply knows his way around a toaster. But hey, in 1950s America, you never know where Mr. Right might be hiding. For now, the department store is as good a place as any to keep looking. At least here, if you come home empty-handed, you can always blame it on the sale. Everyone around you is flashing diamonds the size of marbles. You pretend not to notice, but your finger feels oddly naked. Meanwhile, your mother is measuring your ring size just in case. The 1950s American engagement ring scene is less a sweet romantic gesture and more a competitive sport with all the subtlety of a marching band in a library. You step into any gathering of women, church potlucks, bridge club, or the checkout line at the grocery store, and you're momentarily blinded by the glint of engagement rings. It's as if De Beers launched a campaign to outshine the sun, and the local jewellers are only too happy to help. The latest engagement is always front-page gossip, and everyone acts delighted, while secretly judging the clarity, cut, and number of carats. It's beautiful, dear. Is it real? Of course, it isn't enough just to be engaged. Your ring must pass the unspoken Fawcett test. If it can't double as a flashlight in a power outage, is it really worth saying yes? The arms race isn't just about love, it's about status. The neighbour's daughter got a solitaire so large it requires its own insurance policy. Your best friend's fiancé had her initials engraved inside the band, and everyone clucked approvingly, as if that's all that stands between bliss and disaster. Meanwhile, you walk around with bare hands, suddenly aware of every gesture. Picking up a teacup feels like announcing to the world, yes, I'm still single, and my knuckles are tragically unadorned. Your mother, not one to miss an opportunity for subtle encouragement, keeps a tape measure in her purse. Just in case, she whispers conspiratorially, as if engagement rings might fall from the sky and you'll need to be ready. Shopping becomes a minefield. Jewellers' windows leer at you with tiny price tags and even tinier velvet boxes. Salesmen pounce the moment you step inside, ready to tell you all about the timeless elegance of a 3-stone setting or the new modern trend of square cuts. You can't help but notice the display case for promise rings, training wheels for the real deal, and a gentle reminder that you might want to hurry up. Every lunch with girlfriends turns into a jewellery show and tell. Rings are compared, admired, and, in some cases, subtly one-upped. Oh, yours is a 1/4 carat. That's so practical. The woman with the largest gem tries to look humble, while everyone else wonders how many payments it'll take before the groom's car gets repossessed. Then there's the matter of ring envy. You want to be happy for your friends. Really you do. But there's a small, traitorous voice in your head that wonders if your time will ever come, or if you're doomed to a life of sensible shoes and practical gloves. You begin to notice jewellery advertisements everywhere. A diamond is forever, they promise. You start to suspect the only thing forever is the reminder that your hands are conspicuously empty. At home, the arms race becomes a quiet campaign. Your mother drops hints about family stones and heirloom settings. Your aunt reminisces about her engagement ring, which wasn't big, but it meant the world. You've seen it. It's actually huge. Even your little sister gets in on the act, making paper rings and slipping them onto your finger when no one's looking. Through it all, you try to laugh at the absurdity. You practice your, oh, it's lovely. Face and rehearse answers to the inevitable questions. No, not yet. Maybe someday. I'm just waiting for the right man and the right jeweller. And in your heart, you remind yourself that while diamonds may be forever, a sense of humour is priceless. So you wear your invisible crown, wave your bare hand with pride, and promise yourself that if and when you do get a ring, you'll remember what matters, not the size of the stone, but the sparkle you bring to the table. Though, let's be honest, a little glitter never hurt anyone. Your cousin's bridal shower is a minefield of thinly veiled questions and unsolicited advice. Every gift is a reminder of what you don't have, and every toast is another subtle nudge toward the altar. You walk in balancing a casserole dish and a forced smile, instantly surrounded by pastel streamers and the overpowering scent of gardenias. Your cousin, the blushing bride-to-be, floats in a cloud of lace, beaming with the confidence of someone whose relationship status will no longer be a topic at Thanksgiving. Meanwhile, the rest of the room seems to vibrate with the energy of a committee meeting, where the main agenda is, what are we going to do about you? The seating chart isn't random, it's strategic. Married women at one table, younger singles at another, with you hovering awkwardly between, like a party guest who missed her cue. Aunt Doris makes a beeline for you, armed with a hug and a question that isn't really a question. So, dear, is there someone special in your life? Her eyebrows waggle with anticipation. You manage a polite laugh and take refuge at the punch bowl, but there's no escaping the relatives' inquisition. It's a tag team event, As soon as you dodge one, another materializes, eager to share what worked for them, as if dating in the 1950s comes with a universal user manual and a warranty card. Then come the gifts, each one a monument to domestic bliss. Toasters, towel sets, matching oven mitts, and of course, a slow cooker that promises to make meal prep a breeze for busy newlyweds. Every unwrapped present is a subtle reminder. You don't have this. You don't have that. You don't have someone to argue with over how to fold towels. You clap and smile as the bride opens her 6th set of monogrammed dish towels, your mind wandering to the single dish towel hanging over your own oven handle, which you bought because it was on sale and it had a cat on it. The toasts begin. To the happy couple, may you never go to bed angry, someone declares, as if marital peace can be achieved with matching bathrobes. Glasses clink, and every well-wisher throws a glance your way, hoping the contagious spirit of matrimony will leap across the buffet table and infect you next. Don't worry, dear. Your time will come, chirps Aunt Linda, a woman who married at 19 and believes singlehood is a brief unfortunate phase, like chickenpox. Small talk swirls. Have you tried that new matchmaking service at church? My neighbour's son just moved back from college. Very steady job. Did you ever hear back from that nice boy you met at Easter? Each suggestion lands like a layer of Jell-O salad, dense, jiggly, and oddly resistant to being ignored. The games begin. Guess the cake flavour. Bridal bingo. How quickly can you set a table without crying? You play along, though secretly you wonder if you'll ever be the one sitting in the centre chair, opening gifts and fielding questions about your honeymoon plans. You watch as your cousin unwraps a crystal vase, grins for the camera, and basks in a kind of communal approval reserved for the newly affianced. Your aunts beam at her like she's cracked the code to life, while you get the "don't worry" dear squeeze that feels less comforting and more like a consolation prize. But beneath the pastel surface there's a current of camaraderie. You share a knowing glance with your fellow singles, an unspoken agreement that survival is an act of quiet rebellion. You laugh, sip your punch, and remember that despite the relentless nudges, you can leave whenever you want and go home to a bed you don't have to share with anyone who snores. Because in the world of bridal showers and judgmental relatives, sometimes the greatest gift is simply making it through the day with your dignity and your sense of humour still intact. You finally move out and get your own place, only to discover that living alone makes people more nervous than if you'd started collecting taxidermy. Apparently, independence is a red flag. The lease is barely signed when the questions start rolling in. Your mother clutches her pearls at the kitchen table, whispering about safety while subtly implying that a single woman with her own address is, at best, a tragic figure, and at worst, the neighbourhood's next scandal. What will people think, she asks, as if you're opening a speakeasy in the living room. What if something happens to you? Who will water your plants? The answer, of course, is you, but this only seems to confirm everyone's worst suspicions. The apartment itself is humble, with squeaky floors, a view of the laundromat sign, and a cosy kitchen the size of a telephone booth. But it's yours. You decorate with mismatched furniture, thrifted art, and the kind of curtains that make you feel like a grown-up, even if you're mostly eating canned soup and crackers for dinner. The mailbox bears your name, and for the first time, the space is filled only with your own thoughts, and maybe the neighbour's yappy poodle, whose bark seems to echo through the walls at all hours. The novelty of living alone soon wears off, replaced by a parade of suspicious glances and awkward encounters. Mrs. Jensen, from down the hall, knocks on your door with a tin of cookies, ostensibly a friendly gesture, but really an excuse to scope out the place for signs of improper living. She eyes your book collection and single bed with the concern of a customs agent sniffing out contraband. So, no roommates, she asks, no fiancé. You shake your head, and she makes a note to bring it up at the next tenants' association meeting. It doesn't stop there. The grocery store clerk raises an eyebrow as you ring up a single box of pasta, a jar of olives, and exactly one slice of cake. The landlady just happens to be in the hallway whenever you come home late, squinting suspiciously as if expecting you to sneak in a jazz musician, or worse, political literature. Your friends are supportive but mystified, half jealous of your autonomy, half convinced you're destined to start hoarding cats and talking to your houseplants. Family visits are a production. Your mother arrives with a bag of cleaning supplies and a Tupperware army, performing a one-woman audit of your spice rack and peering under the bed for signs of unladylike habits. She leaves handwritten notes. Call if you need anything, or if you hear a strange noise, or if you just want to come home. Your father checks the locks and delivers a stern lecture on being vigilant, as if you're living on the edge of a war zone rather than next to a bakery. The most surprising reaction comes from co-workers. Office gossip circulates with the speed of a pneumatic tube. Did you hear? She got her own place, all by herself. Some are genuinely impressed, others deeply suspicious. The office manager offers advice on how to make a roast for one with a wink, as if this is code for something slightly illicit. Even the postman asks if you're sure you're getting all your mail, no one to share it with, you know. Still, there's a joy to your new solitude. You eat breakfast in pyjamas, dance around to your own radio, and watch whatever you want on television. You hang your own art, burn toast without judgment, and finally figure out how to fix a leaky faucet, sort of. There's freedom in knowing you can come and go as you please, make decisions without a committee, and spend Friday night in a bubble bath instead of at yet another church social. So maybe, in a world that sees a woman alone as a walking mystery, you're happy to keep them guessing. Independence might be a red flag to some, but to you it's the brightest, most beautiful banner you've ever flown. And for the first time, you're the only one who gets to decide what it means. You've taken up knitting, cross-stitch, and perhaps competitive flower arranging. Anything to look busy when Aunt Doris asks. So, anyone special in your life? Spoiler, the only special someone is your houseplant. Let's be honest, idle hands are the devil's playthings, but in 1950s suburbia, they're also a sure sign you've given up. So you busy yourself with every wholesome hobby the world can offer. Your knitting basket is overflowing. Your embroidery hoop is in a constant state of half-finished progress, and there's a vase on your table that's seen more floral action than your social calendar. Every project is a tactical distraction. If your hands are occupied, maybe, just maybe, no one will notice the lack of an engagement ring. At first, the hobbies are sincere. You genuinely want to learn to knit that pretty scarf you saw in the ladies' magazine, or finally master the elusive French knot. But as the family gatherings stack up and the pointed questions multiply, your hobby roster grows more competitive. Crochet, macrame, découpage. You're not just passing the time, you're entering the minor leagues of spinster self-improvement. It's not just for show either. Your evenings become a marathon of productivity. You knit through reruns, cross-stitch during dinner, and turn Saturday afternoons into competitive bake-offs with yourself. The local craft store clerk knows you by name and asks about your latest masterpiece. A code for still single, huh? You buy extra supplies just in case a last-minute project is needed to fend off an especially inquisitive relative. Soon your home becomes a museum of solitary pursuits. The Afghan on the couch is big enough for a small army. Every doily in the place is perfectly starched, and you have more hand-sewn pot holders than actual pots. Even your houseplant, frankly the most consistent relationship in your life, sports a crocheted cozy. It's a level of domestic accomplishment that would make Martha Stewart sweat, but somehow it still doesn't count as progress in the eyes of family. At church picnics and family reunions, your reputation precedes you. She's so crafty, the aunts whisper. So clever with her hands. If only she'd put that energy into finding a nice boy. You grit your teeth and start a new scarf, resisting the urge to crochet a banner reading, "I'm fine, thanks." Flower arranging becomes an Olympic event. Roses, lilies, and whatever the neighbour's dog hasn't trampled. You even try your hand at bonsai, quietly cheering when the little tree survives another week. The thing about these hobbies is that they're double-edged. On one hand, you get the satisfaction of creation, the quiet joy of finishing a piece, of giving a handmade gift, of filling your space with colour and warmth. On the other, every stitch and snip is shadowed by the implication that it's merely something to do while waiting for real life to start. The implication that only partnered pursuits truly count. But as you untangle yet another skein of yarn, you realise something quietly revolutionary. You actually like this. The hush of the house in the evening, the pride of a finished piece, the autonomy to start a new hobby on a whim. It's freedom, not failure. You discover that joy can come from mastering a new stitch, or arranging a bouquet just for you, or yes, naming your houseplant after a favourite radio host. So, next time Aunt Doris asks, anyone special in your life, you can smile, glance at your flourishing ficus and say, absolutely. And he never forgets to water himself, because while everyone else waits for the curtain to rise on Act 2, you're busy making the intermission as interesting as possible, one handmade potholder at a time. You didn't ask for help, but help has arrived anyway. Suddenly you're being set up with the neighbour's dentist's cousin, because he seems nice and has most of his teeth. In 1950s suburbia, matchmaking isn't just a gentle nudge, it's a full-contact sport. The moment you drift past the socially acceptable marriage age, 23 and a half by most calendars, your life becomes open season for amateur cupids. The neighbourhood grapevine hums with activity as relatives, friends and total strangers conspire to fix your single status before the next church potluck. It's less about romance, more about logistics. You're a loose puzzle piece, and everyone wants to see where you'll finally fit. It starts subtly. Your mother mentions that Mrs. Fenwick's nephew is very tall and polite, which is code for still available and hasn't been caught stealing from the church collection plate. Next, the neighbour corners you at the mailbox to ask if you'd like to meet someone who just moved into town. Before you know it, your schedule is filling up with casual introductions that are anything but. It's a parade of men whose most dazzling feature is that they haven't been previously arrested, and whose greatest ambition seems to be liking pie. The matchmaking chain goes something like this. Your mother talks to Mrs. Fenwick, who talks to her cousin, who knows a nice young man from bridge club whose brother once fixed the neighbour's plumbing. Credentials are exchanged like baseball cards. Steady job, Methodist, can drive at night. The next thing you know, you're sipping lemonade on the porch with Harold from 3 blocks over, listening to stories about his pet parakeet and waiting for a spark that refuses to arrive. If you dare to resist, the pressure only mounts. You don't want to be too picky, your aunt warns, as if turning down a man who collects ceramic frogs is the first step to spinsterdom. There's a certain urgency to it all, a sense that if you don't act soon, you'll miss your last chance, like the summer sale at Jenkins' department store, but with more social consequences and slightly fewer returns. Of course, there are the success stories. Your friend Millie met her husband at a dinner cooked up by a scheming church lady and her cousin's postman. Now they host How We Met dinners, where everyone sits through endless retellings of how fate and 3 meddling aunts brought them together. It's meant to be inspiring. Mostly it's a warning. Every blind date is an adventure in managing expectations. You dress carefully, remembering your mother's advice to wear blue, it brings out your eyes, and spend the evening nodding along as your would-be suitor recounts his stamp collection in excruciating detail. Sometimes there's a glimmer of hope, an easy laugh, a shared taste in pie, but more often you're calculating the earliest possible time you can make your escape without setting off a family-wide panic. Meanwhile, your own opinions on romance become background noise in the grand symphony of matchmaking. Everyone has a theory about what you're doing wrong. You're too shy, too outspoken, not trying hard enough, trying too hard. You should bake more, you should bake less. It's a wonder anyone ever finds love at all, considering the barrage of advice and half-baked strategies. But beneath all the gentle harassment, you notice something else. Community. People genuinely want you to be happy, even if their methods are questionable and their timing abysmal. The neighbour's dentist's cousin may not sweep you off your feet, but he'll politely compliment your lemonade, and for a moment you'll remember that sometimes nice is good enough. So you take another sip, smile politely, and add Harold, parakeet enthusiast, to your mental roster of matchmaking adventures. Because in the 1950s, finding love isn't always a grand romantic story. Sometimes it's just about surviving the parade of well-meaning brokers with your sanity and your sense of humour intact. You've been promoted at work. Congratulations. You are now officially terrifying. Every male co-worker looks at you like you just invented feminism, and your boss is concerned you'll forget your real purpose. In the 1950s, career girl isn't a compliment, it's practically a diagnosis. One step up the company ladder, and suddenly you're the subject of more speculation than the office football pool. You used to blend in behind your typewriter. Now, with a new title and a raise, you stick out like a rare butterfly in a jar full of mothballs. Your male colleagues congratulate you with a handshake just a shade too firm, their smiles brittle, their eyes darting for the nearest exit. One even tries to explain the copier to you, just so you're not overwhelmed. You thank him politely while privately plotting his doom. At first, you're proud. You've worked for this. You've stayed late, sorted chaos into order, learned to read the boss's handwriting, a language only decipherable by cryptographers and desperate secretaries. But your achievement comes with an asterisk. The office rumour mill kicks into high gear. Did you hear? She got promoted. Must be nice to have connections. What do you think she had to do for that? There's always a hint, a wink, an unspoken suggestion that your real skill set involves casseroles, not competence. Your mother's reaction is lukewarm at best. That's wonderful, dear. But you'll still have time for a husband, right? You don't want people to think you're, difficult. Difficult. The word that hangs in the air like a scent of burnt toast. Your father gives a proud nod, then promptly changes the subject to your cousin's engagement. Because ambition is fine in theory, but in practice it makes dinner conversation awkward. The worst is your boss, Mr. Callahan, who calls you into his office with the gravity of a surgeon delivering bad news. We're all very proud of you, miss. He checks your file, he never remembers your last name. Just remember not to lose sight of what's important. By which he means, don't start showing up the men, and for heaven's sake, don't stop organising the coffee fund. If he thinks the promotion will distract you from the office birthday cake rota, he's got another thing coming. Your female co-workers are a mixed bag. Some cheer you on, seeing a glimmer of possibility for their own futures. Others eye you with suspicion, as if you've upset the delicate office balance. A few whisper that the men will never let her forget this, and they're right. Suddenly, every mistake, every typo, every jammed staple is amplified, a sign that maybe women are getting too big for their sensible shoes. Dating, of course, becomes a minefield. The first time you mention your new job title to a man over dinner, he chokes on his chicken and immediately changes the subject to baseball. Your promotion becomes a litmus test. If he can't handle it, he's probably not sticking around for long. Friends warn you not to be intimidating, to downplay your achievements, to act impressed when a man explains basic arithmetic. You nod, smile, and quietly vow never to date anyone who's threatened by a woman with her own paycheck. There are moments, usually late at night after balancing the office books and your own, when you wonder if it's all worth it. But then you remember the feeling of opening your first paycheck with that new title, the pride in doing a job well, the stubborn glowing certainty that you are so much more than someone else's secretary or someone else's wife-in-waiting. So you keep going. You hang your promotion certificate on the wall, you keep crushing deadlines, and you wear your ambition like a badge of honour, even if the world treats it like a warning label. Because if ambition is a dirty word, you're not afraid to say it out loud and spell it correctly on company letterhead for everyone to see. By day, you're a model citizen, star employee, and doting daughter. By night, you're reading racy novels under the covers and wondering if there's more to life than perfect pot roast. Life in the 1950s is a masterclass in compartmentalization, especially if you're a woman who hasn't managed to hitch yourself to a husband before the magical age of 25. Your days are scheduled down to the minute. Up at dawn, breakfast with the family, blouse perfectly pressed, and out the door to a job you perform with the efficiency of a Swiss watch. You're punctual, polite, and always ready with a helping hand, an asset at work, a saint at church, a prodigy in the kitchen. Your neighbours know you as such a good girl, and your mother never misses a chance to mention your many virtues to anyone within earshot, preferably in the produce aisle. But once the sun sets and the house grows quiet, the second shift begins. The secret life of the unmarried woman. You slip out of your prim pencil skirt and into pyjamas, making sure your door is securely shut. Tucked beneath your sensible covers is a battered copy of a novel your mother would faint over. Something with a cover so lurid you keep it disguised inside the dust jacket of How to Win Friends and Influence People. Your heart races not just for the plot, but for the quiet rebellion of it all. Sometimes you sneak a radio under your pillow, listening to jazz or late-night talk shows that would send your aunt straight to confession. You make popcorn at midnight, eat it in bed, and pretend you're the star of your own show, a life where dessert comes first, every time. You know the rules. Never talk about your secret stash of dime store romances. Never admit you find the main character far more interesting when she chooses herself over a man. And definitely never let your mother catch you reading anything suggestive. It's not just novels and music. There are dreams too, of travelling on your own, moving to a city where nobody cares about your marital status. Or, scandal of scandals, having your own adventures. Maybe you'll take a night class in something wild, like painting or French. You practice saying no, thank you in the mirror, rehearsing the moment when you turn down yet another date with a man who thinks your greatest ambition is mastering lemon meringue pie. The thing about keeping up appearances is how quickly it can become a second skin. You learn to smile through the questions. Any special young man? Still living at home? Ever think about settling down? You nod, deflect, and refill coffee cups, all the while keeping your real thoughts locked away for later. The pressure to be perfect is relentless. Flawless makeup, spotless home, impeccable manners. You're always on, always auditioning for a part you're not sure you want. Yet there's a sly satisfaction in knowing you have a life that's yours alone, a life no one else sees. You find camaraderie in the glances exchanged with other women at the library, both reaching for the same novel just for the recipes. You share secret smiles with the girl at the office who wears red lipstick on Fridays, just because. You realise that, even surrounded by casseroles and calendars, you're not alone in your double life. One day, perhaps, you'll trade keeping up appearances for living on your own terms. But for now, you move quietly between your worlds, balancing expectation with desire, routine with rebellion. You keep up appearances not because you have to, but because sometimes the best way to survive is to play the part while planning your next act just out of sight. And as you switch off your light, book tucked under your pillow, you know tomorrow will be much the same. But tonight at least you get to be the heroine of your own story, secrets, dreams, racy novels and all. Thanksgiving, Christmas, 4th of July. Every holiday is another chance to sit at the kids' table and dodge questions about your plans for the future. Even the cranberry sauce judges you. The holidays in 1950s. America supposed to be about family, warmth, and togetherness. But if you're over 25 and still flying solo, the togetherness comes with a side of scrutiny and a double helping of unsolicited advice. You know the drill, family gatherings are less a celebration and more a reality show, with you cast in the role of lovable but slightly tragic supporting character. The opening credits, you clutching a casserole, smiling bravely and scanning the room for the nearest exit. Take Thanksgiving. You arrive in your nicest dress, pie in hand, ready to face another year of turkey and tiny chairs. While everyone else mingles with spouses and partners, you're ushered to the singles table, which is suspiciously close to the kids' craft corner and even closer to the cat's food bowl. Your dining companions are 3 toddlers, a teenage cousin, and great-aunt Mildred, who, at 90, is the only one allowed to speak openly about bodily functions at the dinner table. Your plate is loaded with mashed potatoes, but your ears are loaded with questions. So, any special young man in your life? Have you tried that new church social? Your cousin met her husband at a pie baking contest, you know. Even the cranberry sauce slides across your plate with an accusatory wobble, as if to say, you and I both know you're just here for the leftovers. Christmas isn't any easier. The stockings are hung by the chimney with care, and so are the expectations. While the couple swap stories of how they first met and who burned the Christmas ham, you're fielding offers to set you up with my friend's nephew. He's very nice, if a little quiet. There's always someone who gifts you a cookbook or, worse, a subscription to a singles travel club. You smile, say thank you, and hope next year you'll get socks instead. Even the 4th of July isn't safe. The backyard barbecue is less about fireworks and more about everyone's burning curiosity regarding your love life. You're handed a sparkler and a plate of potato salad, and then ambushed by Aunt Doris, who's armed with her latest matchmaking idea. You should meet my neighbour's grandson. He plays the accordion, and he's not allergic to cats. The subtext is clear. If you don't find someone soon, she'll have to start searching outside the state. As the meal winds down, you join the other singles in a support group of sorts, a circle of folding chairs near the dessert table, swapping stories and silently competing to see who can come up with the best fake date story. I'm dating a travelling salesman, one friend announces. He's always on the road. You nod approvingly and invent a Swedish pen pal who can't make it due to passport issues. It's not lying exactly, it's holiday self-preservation. Of course, you could always try sitting at the grown-up table, but that's a game of musical chairs with high emotional stakes. There, the conversation turns to mortgages, PTA meetings and baby photos, and before long, someone remembers you have none of the above. You retreat to the singles table, grateful for the distraction of a colouring book and a toddler willing to trade half a cookie for some attention. When the festivities end and the house is quiet again, you carry your leftovers home, along with the knowledge that you've survived another round of holiday survival. Because while the world may think the singles table is a mark of shame, you know the truth. It's where the best stories are told, the sharpest jokes are made, and the cranberry sauce can't judge you if you eat it straight from the can. So here's to the singles table. May your seat always be secure, your plate always be full, and your answers always be just vague enough to keep everyone guessing until next year. You're at another Sadie Hawkins dance, weighing the pros and cons of dancing with a man who smells like Old Spice and unresolved trauma. At midnight the lights come up and you're still holding your own purse. Sadie Hawkins is supposed to be the one night where the tables turn and women call the shots. In theory, it's empowering. In practice, it's a blend of adolescent anxiety, faint gym socks, and the blinding realization that chivalry can, in fact, die twice. The gymnasium is strung with crepe paper and hope. There's a punch bowl bubbling with something neon and vaguely citrus, and the air is thick with perfume, perspiration, and anticipation. The moment you arrive, the fun begins. You scan the room for prospects, mentally sorting the men into categories. He might be safe. He only talks about his model train collection, and I'd rather set my poodle skirt on fire. Picking a partner is less about romance and more about risk assessment. The rules say you have to ask, so you do, channeling your inner boldness and praying you don't look as nervous as you feel. The first conversation goes something like this. Hi, would you like to dance? He blinks, startled, then nods, relieved he doesn't have to stand against the wall all night. The band strikes up a slow tune, and you shuffle out onto the floor, careful to keep your sensible shoes at a safe distance from his two left feet. Small talk is agony. Do you live around here? Yes, my mother does too. Oh, that's nice. As the night goes on, the dances blur together. You twirl with one man who smells faintly of shoe polish and recites football stats in lieu of conversation. You attempt a jitterbug with another who nearly throws out his back on the third spin. Someone offers to fetch you punch and disappears for 20 minutes, returning with 2 cups and a story about his time in the Boy Scouts. You smile politely and wonder if they're all reading from the same script. You glance at the clock. How has it only been 40 minutes? Aunt Doris, who chaperoned her last Sadie Hawkins before you were born, is stationed near the door, keeping a tally of who's paired off and who's still sitting solo. She shoots you a thumbs up, but it feels more like a challenge. You want to disappear behind the potted fern. Your friends flit in and out of the punchline, some managing to snag a dance with the good bachelors. Read, employed, no known criminal record can make polite conversation. Others aren't so lucky. You regroup in the bathroom, swapping stories of awkward silences and wayward elbows, and promise each other you'll stick together for the next round. Then comes the dreaded Ladies' Choice grand finale. The lights dim, the bandleader croons something about love under the stars, and the last dance looms like a verdict. You search for someone who looks relatively harmless, finally settling on a guy who seems more interested in the snack table than the dance floor. As the band plays on, you move in the time-honoured rhythm of all Sadie Hawkins survivors, smiling, nodding, hoping your hair holds up under the strain. When the lights flicker on at midnight, couples clutching each other for dear life gaze around with a mix of relief and disappointment. You glance down to find your own purse still securely in hand, a silent badge of independence. There's no fairy tale ending, no glass slipper, just the quiet satisfaction of surviving yet another night of forced social opportunity, an Old Spice aftershave. Outside the air is cool, the world is quiet, and you head home with your friends, laughter echoing down the sidewalk. Because sometimes the last dance isn't about finding romance at all, it's about reclaiming your own rhythm and leaving the gym with your head and your purse held high. You've been warned. Never call boys, never be too forward, always act interested but not too interested. It's like walking a tightrope in a girdle, blindfolded while holding a casserole. The rules for being a nice girl in the 1950s aren't written down anywhere, but you feel them pressing in from every side, whispered by mothers over breakfast, reinforced by aunts at holiday dinners, and hammered home by etiquette books with pastel covers and stern advice. Your entire existence is a performance, with every move, word, and raised eyebrow subject to scrutiny. The world expects you to be gracious, modest, and perpetually on the edge of being chosen, but never, heaven forbid, doing the choosing. It starts young. You're taught to smile sweetly at everyone, say please and thank you until the words lose all meaning, and never, under any circumstances, let your skirt ride up past your knees. By your teens, the rules multiply like rabbits. Don't speak too loudly, don't laugh too hard, don't eat too much at dinner, especially if there's a boy at the table. And for goodness sake, don't express a strong opinion about anything more controversial than the weather or the correct way to fold napkins. When it comes to romance, the rules are even more ridiculous. You're expected to be available but not desperate, flirty but not forward, mysterious but never aloof. Never call a boy, but do answer the phone on the second ring in case it's him. Never suggest a date, but do accept an invitation, unless you have a very good excuse, like a family funeral or a contagious rash. Don't let him think you're too eager, but don't play so hard to get that he gives up and ask your best friend instead. Even your wardrobe comes with its own rulebook. Hemlines not too short, necklines not too low, shoes practical, but not frumpy. Your purse should contain a mirror, a handkerchief, and a tube of lipstick in an appropriate shade. Heaven help the girl who carries breath mints, too suggestive, or more than one compact, vain. Dating is a high-wire act. The boy picks you up, but your father must answer the door. You make polite conversation in the front seat, careful not to sound too smart, but not so vapid you seem dull. At the movie, you must accept popcorn, never eat too much, and sit just close enough to seem interested, but not so close as to suggest anything that might require confession later. When he walks you to your door, you smile, thank him, and hope the porch light doesn't flicker, because your mother is almost certainly watching from behind the curtains. Every interaction is an audition for respectability. The community keeps score, and reputations are fragile. One wrong move, a laugh at the wrong joke, an unchaperoned walk home, a misplaced hairpin at a party, and suddenly you're whispered about in the grocery store and prayed for at church. There's no manual for how to recover from a dented reputation, only cautionary tales about girls who got ideas and ended up moving away for a fresh start. It's exhausting. You wonder if boys ever feel this way, if they lie awake at night replaying every sentence, every smile, every accidental brush of the hand. Spoiler, they don't. They're asleep. You wish you could just be yourself, say what you think, and call when you want to call. But for now, you keep up the act, balancing on the tightrope, casserole in hand, hoping you don't slip and tumble into social oblivion. But here's the secret. Under the layers of social armour, you're not alone. Every nice girl you know is quietly dreaming of a world where rules are for board games, not for life. Until then, you walk the line, one polite smile at a time, knowing that somewhere out there, respectability is overrated, and real happiness might just be waiting on the other side of the tightrope. You find yourself peeking at newspaper ads and visiting fortune tellers for fun, but secretly hoping for answers. Apparently your love life is now sponsored by the mystic Madam of Main Street. It starts innocently enough, just a glance at the personals while you're reading the funnies. But the longer you spend single in 1950s America, the more those classified ads start to sound like reasonable options. Charming, steady man seeks wholesome companion for serious intentions. Tall, responsible gentleman enjoys long walks and reliable transportation. Widower with modest means and very clean kitchen. Each one is a little window into a world where meeting someone doesn't require surviving a church mixer or Aunt Doris's latest idea. You tell yourself it's just for laughs, but after yet another bridal shower, you start to wonder if placing your own ad, spinster with impressive potholder collection, seeks man who understands silence and cats, might not be such a bad idea. Some nights, you circle possibilities in red pen, half joking and half curious. The possibilities are endless. The standards, rapidly negotiable. Of course, you're not alone in your curiosity. At book club, the talk drifts from Little Women to little ads, and before you know it, everyone's got an opinion. He sounds nice, steady job, his own teeth. This one's promising. He's travelled to Nebraska. There's safety in numbers, but also a hint of desperation, as if reading the classifieds together could conjure Mr. Right out of newsprint and hope. And then there's the mystic Madam of Main Street, her parlour wedged between the bakery and the barber shop, curtains heavy with incense and secrets. You tell yourself you're just stopping in for a lark, maybe a laugh. You and your friend slide into chairs draped with purple cloth, scanning the walls for anything that might double as an emergency exit if things get too real. The Madame herself appears, all bangles and bright lipstick with eyes that seem to see through your polite smiles. She shuffles the tarot cards, asks your birthday, and offers sage advice like, beware men with too many keys, or your soulmate will reveal himself at a time of great confusion. You wonder if that counts as next week's office lunch rush, or next month's church bake sale. You nod gravely, pocket the lucky penny she presses into your palm, and promise to keep an eye out for mysterious strangers, preferably ones who know how to fix a leaky faucet. Fortune-telling isn't the only measure. There's palm reading at the county fair, tea leaves at your aunt's kitchen table, and that neighbour who swears by numerology, because it worked for my cousin Millie. You smile, you humour them, and sometimes, just sometimes, you wonder if the universe is trying to tell you something in Morse code. But behind the jokes and the rituals is a genuine longing for answers. When will it happen? Will it happen? Is there a hidden shortcut to happily ever after, buried in the back pages or the bottom of a teacup? You'd like to think so. The alternative, that finding love is just a matter of chance, timing, and surviving another round of potluck interrogations, is almost too exhausting to consider. And yet, with every ad read, every palm crossed with silver, you collect small souvenirs of hope. A classified circled in red, a fortune cookie tucked in your purse, a tarot card slipped under your pillow. Maybe it's not about finding the answers, but about feeling less alone in the search. So you keep reading, keep visiting, keep wondering, never quite believing, but never quite giving up. After all, if your destiny really is in the stars or the Sunday classifieds, you'll be the first to know, and in the meantime, at least you'll have plenty of good stories to share at the next bridal shower, whether you're the guest of honour or the one passing the punch. He finally pops the question, and you're not sure if you're excited, relieved, or just exhausted. The whole town holds its breath, but will you say yes, or fake your own death and move to Paris? It's the moment everyone warned you about, wished for, or quietly bet on during last year's church picnic. There you are, sitting across from your steady, maybe at the fanciest restaurant in town, maybe over lukewarm coffee at his mother's kitchen table, when you see him reach awkwardly into his jacket pocket. Your brain short-circuits. Is this it? Should I look surprised? What do I do with my hands? If only the etiquette books had a chapter for this exact level of panic. He clears his throat, his face a mix of hope and terror. Will you marry me? It's a sentence freighted with every casserole, every spinster joke, every whispered your turn will come from the past 2 years. You stare at the ring, too big, too small. Is that a pearl, while time slows to a crawl? You can feel the psychic energy of 100 relatives leaning in, desperate for the answer. Across town, Aunt Doris pauses mid-bingo, sensing a disturbance in the force. Suddenly, you're replaying every movie montage and magazine article on how to respond when he proposes. Should you burst into happy tears, squeal with delight, accept quietly and make a mental grocery list? Your mother always said, say yes, and we'll sort out the details later. Your best friend said, if he proposes during dessert, you'd better finish your pie first. Meanwhile, you're thinking, can I say, maybe, let me check my schedule? The weight of tradition bears down. You know the rules, this is what you're supposed to want. All the years of casseroles, dances, and polite smiles led to this. Yes means bridal showers, Tupperware sets, and never having to explain why you live alone with 3 houseplants. Yes means approval, community, and a guaranteed spot at the grown-ups table next holiday. But it also means, well, marriage. To this man, with his questionable taste in socks and habit of humming in his sleep. No one tells you about the doubts that tag along. Do you love him, or do you just love the idea of being chosen? Is this relief or resignation? Do you genuinely want to build a life with someone who thinks medium rare is a personality type? As you sit there, blinking, you realise saying yes would answer every question except the ones that matter most to you. And then there's the escape fantasy, the sudden, breathless urge to bolt. You picture slipping out the side door, buying a one-way ticket to Paris and spending the rest of your life painting in a garret, surrounded by poets who never ask about your plans for the future. Or, at least a weekend trip to Canada, where nobody knows your name or your casserole recipe. But the world waits. The silence stretches. Your suitor, poor, hopeful, nervous, finally meets your gaze. It occurs to you that he might be just as panicked as you are, equally aware that one yes could change everything, and so could one no. In that tiny bubble of uncertainty, you realise that this moment is yours. Not your mother's, not Aunt Doris's, not the whole town's. Yours. So you take a deep breath, muster a smile, and answer in whatever way feels right, whether that's a soft yes, a brave no, or a let's talk about Paris. Maybe you'll say yes and mean it. Maybe you'll say no and mean it even more. Or maybe you'll just ask for a little more time. Because in the end, it's not about what everyone else expects. It's about what you truly want. Even if what you truly want is just a minute to breathe, a slice of pie, and maybe a new passport just in case. It's Saturday morning, and somehow you've been signed up for both the Miss Peach Blossom pageant and the PTA bake sale. Welcome to the 1950s, where a woman's worth is measured in both pie crusts and pageant sashes. You're balancing a tiara and a jello mould, and if your smile cracks, so does your marriage potential. The day begins at a dizzying pace. First up, the beauty pageant. A battlefield of hairspray, ruffles, and nerves. You slip into a dress so stiff with tulle and starch it could probably stand up on its own. The local high school gymnasium, transformed for one day into a temple of femininity, is crowded with competitors perfecting their pageant waves and parents whispering last-minute pep talks. Your mother pins a contestant number to your dress and gives you a pep talk about representing the family name. Meanwhile, you're wondering if you can sneak a donut before the swimsuit segment, or if that's grounds for disqualification. There's the talent round, of course, where you play Moon River on the piano, your fingers sticky from last night's pie-baking marathon. You make it through the Q&A session, fielding questions about world peace, your favourite subject in school, and crucially whether you hope to be a homemaker someday. You answer with a smile so wide it hurts your cheeks, remembering that points are deducted for frowning. In the crowd, Aunt Doris and 3 of your cousins are waving homemade signs: "Marry her, she bakes, and our future queen of peach blossom." Between rounds, you dash to the PTA bake sale, which is not so much a community event as a culinary contest disguised as a fundraiser. The gymnasium smells of fresh bread and competitive spirit. Here, the real action unfolds as mothers and daughters hustle their best baked goods to a panel of judges, each evaluating crust flakiness like it's a matter of national security. Your Jell-O mould, artfully decorated with canned fruit, wobbles in the sun and threatens to collapse at the slightest provocation. While you're selling pie slices to neighbours, a PTA mum with a clipboard sidles over. "Are you in the pageant too?" "My, aren't you busy?" Reminds me of my pageant days. Did I mention I married my judge? She laughs, but her eyes are all business. You take mental notes, wondering if you should have worn your sash to the bake sale or brought a slice of pie to the judge's table. Multitasking, you realise, is a survival skill in this world. Smiling, selling, and gliding in kitten heels all at once. The gossip swirls faster than the electric mixer. Did you see Judy's pie? She used store-bought crust. Marge's daughter wore red lipstick in the evening gown round, too bold. Did you hear Susie's only entering the bake sale because she lost the pageant last year? You nod politely, all the while calculating your odds, pageant glory or bake sale triumph, which is the surer path to small-town immortality, which will look better in the engagement section of the local paper. At the end of the day, the tiara is passed, the blue ribbon is pinned, and someone's name goes on a plaque in the school hallway. Maybe you win, maybe you're runner-up, maybe you just get best crust or most congenial. Either way, you head home with your cheeks sore from smiling and your hair smelling like apple pie and aquanet. But you know what's really being judged? Your ability to juggle expectations, to play nice, to be everything to everyone, charming, talented, pretty, and an ace with a rolling pin. It's exhausting, absurd, and entirely too much fun to quit. And as you peel off your sash and slice yourself a consolation piece of pie, you remind yourself that being a prize is nice, but being yourself, pie crumbs and all, is even sweeter. You've booked a doctor's appointment for a cough, but instead you're diagnosed with a severe case of not having a husband. According to modern medicine and Dr. Wilson's moustache, the only cure is immediate matrimony and possibly a vacation in Palm Springs, with a chaperone, of course. You shuffle into Dr. Wilson's office clutching a handkerchief, ready to complain about your sore throat and maybe get a prescription for cough syrup. The waiting room is filled with the usual suspects: old magazines, a dying fern, and Mrs. Jenkins, who eyes you with the barely disguised interest of someone hoping for gossip-worthy news. You flip through an issue of Ladies' Home Journal, but all you find are ads for wedding china and smiling couples. Foreshadowing, but you don't know it yet. When your turn arrives, Doctor, Wilson, distinguished by his bushy eyebrows and air of paternal authority, gestures you onto the examination table. He asks a few questions, checks your pulse, and listens to your chest with a stethoscope cold enough to wake the dead. He says, frowning in concentration. "How's your appetite? Sleeping well? Any stress?" You nod along, describing your symptoms, but he barely seems to be listening. His mind, you suspect, is on other things, namely your lack of matrimonial progress. He puts down his chart and looks at you over the rim of his glasses. "And are you married yet, young lady?" You blink, caught off guard. No, doctor, but I do have a persistent cough. He waves away your answer. That can wait. You know, most women your age are married by now. I see it all the time, young women perfectly healthy but without a husband. It's a worrying trend. You stifle a cough and brace yourself for the real diagnosis. I'm afraid, he says, lowering his voice, what you have is a classic case of acute unmarriedness. It can be very serious if left untreated. Have you considered attending more socials? He scribbles something on his notepad. Probably not a prescription, unless the pharmacy is now offering blind dates over the counter. Dr. Wilson launches into a monologue worthy of the medical journals. He explains that symptoms may include sleeplessness, mild anxiety, and a tendency to read too many novels. In my experience, he says, the cure is simple. A husband. Failing that, a change of scenery. Palm Springs is excellent for the nerves, as long as you bring a suitable chaperone. He looks at you as if expecting gratitude for this life-saving advice. Before you can protest, he offers further treatments. Perhaps you need more vitamins, the kind found at a church bake sale, more fresh air, preferably on a double date, or a regimen of social events, all administered in generous doses until your symptoms subside, or a diamond appears on your finger. Trust me, he says, patting your hand. No woman your age needs to be alone. It's bad for the constitution. You leave the office with a clean bill of health, a vague suggestion to smile more, and a business card for Dr. Wilson's nephew. A fine young man, good teeth, very punctual. Mrs. Jenkins is still in the waiting room, and she eyes you curiously as you pass. Just a little unmarriedness, you say, deadpan. Doctor's orders. At home, you recount the story to your mother, who nods sagely and says, see? Even your doctor agrees. Maybe you should take that vacation. Palm Springs does sound nice this time of year. You wonder if there's an over-the-counter remedy for unsolicited matchmaking, or if the only cure is laughter and a very, very good book. Because in 1950s America, sometimes the only thing more persistent than a cough is society's determination to see you paired off. And the only prescription you really need? A sense of humour and maybe a week away, doctor's orders, chaperone optional. The phone rings and you freeze. Is it a wrong number, a telemarketer, or worse, a well-meaning neighbour just checking in? Every call is a new round of 20 questions about your dating life, and the only escape is pretending the phone doesn't exist. Or moving. Again. Welcome to the 1950s, when the household telephone is less a tool of convenience and more a weapon of mass anxiety. In an era before caller ID, every ring is an existential gamble. It could be a friend with harmless gossip, or it could be Aunt Doris, ready to deploy a barrage of inquiries with the accuracy of a practiced interrogator. The phone sits in the hallway, perched on its little table, looming over your daily routine like an overzealous chaperone. Answering the phone requires a strategy. You've mastered the pleasant but cautious hello, bracing for whatever fate or neighbour has dialed your number this time. If it's a real wrong number, you thank your lucky stars and hang up with a sigh of relief, but more often it's Mrs. Jensen from 2 doors down, her voice syrupy sweet. Just calling to see how you're doing, dear. Have you met anyone special yet? If only there were a button for no comment. Every conversation is a minefield. If you sound too cheerful, they'll suspect you're hiding a secret romance. Too glum, and suddenly the entire block is worried about your unmarried state. Your mother listens in from the kitchen, armed with a notepad and her own list of potential suitors. Was that the boy from the hardware store? She'll ask, eyes bright with hope. You consider pretending it was the FBI just to watch her reaction. Then there's the matter of missed calls. Heaven forbid you're out when the phone rings. You return home to find your mother clutching a scrap of paper with a cryptic message. Someone named Bill? Said he'll try again. Might be important. You rack your brain for any bills in your life. Co-worker, cousin, last week's church social, or maybe it's another telemarketer hoping to sell you life insurance for 2. The suspense is enough to make you consider disconnecting the line and taking up carrier pigeons instead. The phone isn't just a social gauntlet, it's a matchmaking apparatus. Friends call to set you up on blind dates, relatives leave urgent messages about eligible bachelors, and the church ladies invite you to yet another ice cream social, with a suspicious emphasis on meeting new people. Even the operator is in on it. If she hears something juicy, you can bet the whole town will know before you've hung up. There are moments when you long for silence. You develop evasive maneuvers, answering on the fourth ring, inventing appointments at the last minute, and, when desperate, faking laryngitis to avoid explaining for the 20th time why you're still single. You consider changing your name, your number, or both. If the phone rings after 8 p.m, you stare at it like it's a live grenade. Despite the pressure, you find ways to fight back. You become adept at redirecting the conversation. How's your geranium, Mrs. Jensen? You invent increasingly elaborate stories about your imaginary Swedish pen pal or your budding interest in pottery. And sometimes, when the stars align, you get a real call from a friend who wants nothing more than to talk about the weather or the latest radio show. Because in the world of the 1950s switchboard, survival isn't about finding the right answer, it's about staying sane amidst the static. So you unplug the phone for an hour, make yourself a cup of tea, and savour the rare silence. And when the next call comes, you're ready, armed with patience, wit, and, if necessary, a perfectly reasonable story about why you simply can't talk right now. After all, the houseplant needs watering, and some things just can't wait. Suddenly, every meal is a negotiation. The entire food pyramid has been replaced with cottage cheese and celery sticks. Apparently, if you're not a size 6 by June, you'll have to settle for a wedding dress in shame beige and a lifetime of hushed voices at the beauty parlor. In the 1950s, preparing for matrimony isn't just about finding a husband, it's about fitting into one. The minute you mention engagement or even just summer wedding season, the world around you becomes obsessed with your waistline. Aunt Doris appears with a stack of diet magazines and a mysterious powdered drink mix. Your mother starts cooking light suppers, the kind that leave you hungry enough to chew on the tablecloth. At lunch, your co-workers whisper the latest fad. I heard if you eat only grapefruit and weep quietly before bed, you'll drop 2 dress sizes before Sunday. The pressure isn't subtle. Bridal shops are a maze of measuring tapes and judgment. You stand in front of a 3-way mirror, holding your breath as the seamstress eyes your hips and clucks her tongue. We'll just leave a little room here, she says, as if your body is an inconvenient suitcase for someone else's vacation. If the zipper resists, you're gently reminded, it's always easier to take it in than let it out. You wonder if anyone's ever eloped just to escape the fitting room. Friends rally with their own strategies. Jane swears by a new exercise routine. Just 20 minutes of side bending and you'll fit into anything. Ruth suggests a miracle cream that melts the inches away, or at least tingles a bit. You find yourself buying special undergarments designed to smooth, lift, and otherwise redistribute what nature so carelessly arranged. The advertisements promise a silhouette he'll never forget. You just hope you can still breathe at the altar. Mealtimes become an elaborate performance. At dinner, you spare a celery stick and try to look enthusiastic. You sip black coffee while others indulge in mashed potatoes, and you learn to fake fullness with strategic bites and frequent trips to the kitchen. If you dare reach for dessert, every eye in the room locks on you like you're attempting a public crime. Oh, just a sliver, you say, slicing a piece so thin it's basically a suggestion. Even the grocery store is in on the act. Displays of wedding cakes are replaced by towers of sugar-free gelatin and diet-friendly snacks. The checkout lady nods in approval at your cottage cheese and winks knowingly. You buy a head of lettuce and a copy of Modern Bride, hoping the balance will tip in your favour. But the cruelest fate of all is the colour chart. Every bride dreams of white, pure as new snow, the magazine's promise. But there are whispered warnings about brides who let themselves go and end up in off-white ivory, or, heaven help you, shame beige. No one knows where shame beige comes from. It just appears, like a cautionary tale with a zipper. You try to keep your sense of humour intact, swapping stories with friends about diet disasters and wardrobe malfunctions. You imagine a future where the size of your heart matters more than the size of your waist, but for now you're caught in a world where happiness is measured in inches lost and pounds unseen. Yet, in the quiet moments, after the last celery stick, before the next dress fitting, you realise none of it truly defines you. The perfect dress isn't about the number stitched inside the tag, or even the colour. It's about how you feel dancing in it, laughing in it, living in it. And if that means marching down the aisle in shame beige with a slice of cake in each hand, so be it. Because the best wedding stories aren't about shrinking to fit someone else's idea of perfection. They're about expanding into your own, and that's a perfect fit no matter the size. Remember those high school dreams of sock hops, soda fountains and true love? Fast forward a few years, and now you're wondering if your poodle skirt is a symbol of youthful optimism, or just a reminder that the last boy you dance with is already married, with twins, and he's named one after his mother. Once upon a time, your poodle skirt was your most prized possession. You spent hours sewing on that felt appliqué, twirling in front of the mirror, practicing your best come hither but not too forward smile. Every Friday night meant sock hops at the gymnasium, a jukebox spinning Elvis and Buddy Holly, and the intoxicating hope that your high school crush would finally ask you to dance. It all felt like the start of something. A storybook beginning, the opening credits to a Technicolor romance, right there under the basketball hoops. But now the skirt hangs in the back of your closet, sandwiched between last season's cardigans and the dress you wore to Jane's third bridal shower. You eye it with a mix of nostalgia and dread. It's not that you've grown out of it. Well, maybe just a little, but that you've grown past it. The dreams that once seemed as clear and bubbly as the soda fountain seltzer have fizzled into something more complicated. The world hasn't quite lived up to the promises in those malt shop songs. Sometimes, you pull the skirt out just to remember. You twirl in the privacy of your bedroom and let yourself imagine, just for a minute, that the clock has turned back and everything is possible. But then you spot the invitation to another baby shower or engagement party, and reality sneaks back in, carrying a diaper bag and a bouquet. That boy who once serenaded you at prom? He's now in a carpentry business with his in-laws, and you can't help but notice his Christmas cards include a dog, 3 kids, and a wife who wins pie contests. The hardest part is reconciling the optimism of those high school days with the reality of the present. You were told to dream big, find a good husband, have beautiful children, and keep your poodle skirt pressed for the school's annual homecoming parade. But nobody mentioned what to do if those dreams didn't arrive on schedule. Now you're stuck somewhere between the soda fountain and the coffee percolator, sipping your independence and wondering if it's supposed to taste this bittersweet. You go through the motions, you smile at reunions, listen to tales of first kisses and how we met stories, and feel the inevitable question, so were you seeing anyone? You develop a repertoire of answers, just keeping busy, focusing on my career, thinking about getting a dog, anything to deflect from the gnawing feeling that maybe, just maybe, you're the only one whose fairy tale got stuck in the prologue. Yet, somewhere in the mix of nostalgia and existential angst, you find something that resembles peace. The truth is, the girl who wore that poodle skirt is still inside you, clever and resilient and more than capable of finding her own adventures, even if they don't come with a slow dance or a soda jerk. You take the skirt out for a spin on a lazy Sunday, pour yourself a root beer float, and realise you can still be the heroine of your own story, even if the plot has taken a turn no sock hop could have predicted. In the end, the poodle skirt becomes less a relic of dashed dreams and more a badge of honour. You survived the heartbreak, the showers, the endless interrogations. You grew up, you moved on, and you learned that real life is messier, funnier, and sometimes lonelier than any high school dance. But it's yours. And as you hang the skirt back in the closet, you give it a wink, because some dreams never go out of style, and neither do you. So as you settle in tonight, tucked beneath clean sheets, in a world where your worth isn't measured by casseroles or calendar years, take a slow, grateful breath. You've just survived a day in 1950s America as a woman on the marriage deadline, and honestly, that's worthy of at least a small medal and probably a spa weekend. Think about everything you endured. The whispers at Sunday service, the casseroles that doubled as emotional support, the endless parade of nice boys with questionable hobbies and even more questionable intentions. You balanced social expectations, family matchmaking, and enough hairspray to single-handedly punch a hole in the ozone. Through it all, you managed to keep your dignity, your dreams, and maybe a secret stash of chocolate behind the sewing kit. The truth is, the 1950s demanded a special kind of resilience, one powered by humour, stubborn hope, and the unwavering suspicion that there had to be more to life than Tupperware and tuna bakes. Every awkward conversation, every lonely holiday, every night spent listening to the tick of that invisible clock was a quiet act of resistance. Even when the world told you your value had an expiration date, you learned to laugh, to adapt, and, sometimes, to dance alone in your living room to a record only you enjoyed. So tonight, as you drift off to sleep, maybe whisper a small thank you for the freedom to decide your own timeline. Be grateful for the little things, your independence, your choices, your right to say maybe later or not at all. And remember, history is proof that people are persistent, resourceful, and a little bit ridiculous. If they survived casserole diplomacy and the spinster stigma, you can survive tomorrow's to-do list. Rest well knowing you're not running out of time. You're exactly where you need to be, right here, safe, warm, and finally off the clock. Good night.